welcome. So we're here, we're talking about something that I label memories from the future, which is a mixture between quantum physics and spirituality. It's based on, my experiences and my life, I've always been a person who, since little, has been very observant in the fact that I don't believe everything that I see or saw, and I always question the nature of reality, because I started to find things that contradicted themselves even in science. So I never took things for granted. And I remember that since I was a little kid, things that I would think or things that I would want in that context of that time would manifest itself, And then I was, by the years, when the year went passing, I would say, you know what, this that I wanted happened because I focused on it, and then it manifested. And the earliest thing that I can remember was that when I was like 3 years old or 4 years old, and I walked with my grandfather. I used to walk by the house, and we walked by a school, big yellow school, and I would see all these kids playing there. And I would say like, oh, when I'm grown up and can go, I want to go to the school. But it wasn't to my choice, because you usually go to the school where your father went, which was a different school in a different place. So when it came for me to go to school, I was put in a different school. But then, what happens that my dad got a scholarship so he could finish his PhD in genetics. So we went to the United States, and we were there for 3 years. And then when we came back, he tried to put me back in the school, and there was no spots. And then he tried to put me in every single other school, and there were no spots. Mm-hmm. And the only school where there was a spot available was that one. Mm-hmm. And I took notice, I really took notice, even though I was like, at that time, probably 7. And years passed, and different activities. I remember like going then to the other school, like the elder school from that one, and seeing how much admiration the senior or the last top school athlete would get to the person who won the 100 meters. And I would say like, when I'm in senior year, I'll be the fastest one. If I want all that glory, And it happened, It happened, It just happened. And it got to the point to where when I graduated, I was so athletic in that sense that they only gave prizes to soccer, the best soccer player and the best basketball player. But in my year, they had to make an exception, because I almost like took all the medals in different championships around the schools. So I was able to do that. And then through my career, I always said I want to study in the United States. I want to study a career in the United States, but it was kind of impossible, at the moment. And I studied electronic engineering. And when I studied electronic engineering, I did pure math and pure physics. So that's my first encounter with quantum physics, to where I was like fascinated about the nature of reality and how quantum physics really baffled scientists in the early 1900s. To where you have, like Niels Bohr, that was a quantum physicist, would fight with Albert Einstein, because Albert Einstein didn't believe in quantum physics. he thought that quantum physics was like nonsense. But he could never prove it wrong, and all the quantum physicists always prove him wrong, you know? So I ended up studying in the United States. Even in sports, I was able to do things that were impossible. Like one was like I won, what do you call it? A decathlon. There's like 10 events, and I won it only doing 9, you know? Because I was really focused, and I was really concentrated on what I wanted, you know? So my take, not even going to, you know, like to the level of, you know, like explaining what quantum physics yet is that you are the author of your life. And when you realize that, and when you really see that you have the power, and you take control of that power, then things happen. And not the other way around. You know? And I say that with an example. I do photography, and I was working one night on a 15-inch laptop, and I was like suffering a little bit because I wanted to see the image bigger, you know? And I didn't have space to see it. So I said, you know what? I'm gonna get a 17-inch laptop. So I went to the store the next day, and I looked at a 17-inch laptop, and I said, oh, you know what? It's not that much of a difference. And it cost like $1,000. So then I said, I'll go to the Apple store. So I went to the Apple store, and there was an iMac, 21-inch iMac, beautiful screen, $1,600. That's a good choice. But then out of the corner of my eye, I see this like 27-inch iMac. I fell in love. I want it. I want that machine. The quality of the resolution, the size of the image, it was like so beautiful. I could feel it, you know what I mean? I was like, oh my gosh, I want it. I want it so bad. You know? The how was out of the question. It was like, there was no, I didn't know how, and it didn't matter. I said, I just want that. I want it. And it was $2,600, you know? And it's like, how do you justify it jumping from zero that you really don't need it to $2,600? I said, don't worry. So I went home and I said, where would I put it? And I went around and it's like, put it here, now, here, now. It would fit right there, but there's a shelf. So I went to the garage, took out the shelf, and then now it fits. And I would sit down there and look at it and say, oh my gosh. Fits. I want it right there, and it was like, I could feel it in mine. So I said, you know what? Don't be so greedy, and tomorrow I'll go to the store, and I'll just get the 21-inch. So I get to the store, and I look at the 21-inch, and I glance at the 27-inch, and I say, like, oh my gosh, it has to be mine. So, but I didn't buy it yet, because I didn't know, I didn't want to spend the money at that moment. So then I go home that night and I stare at the spot and then go to the kitchen, and that's 2 days, huh? That's 2 days. Go to the kitchen, get the mail, throw away the envelopes, the trash, advertisement, pay the bills, and there's this envelope right there. I pick it up, it has my name. No, like from who? Nobody. I'm trash. I want to break it. It's kind of like plastified, so I can't. So I thought, oh, open it. I open it and I pull out a check. $2,600 for my name. And I'm like, who's gonna send me a check for $2,600? And I read the letter, it's included, it says like, oh, this is the mortgage company, you overpaid in the past year, so we're returning your money. Who was gonna overpay the mortgage? Nobody. But I'm not gonna question it. You know? So the next day, I went to the Apple store and I purchased my iMac, you know? So it is when you can see something, you know, and you have like that vision of not knowing how, but you have that certainty that things happen, you know? And another very good example that I have, and it's funny because this example, when I tell about it, I can reach to a certain point where people think, oh wow, you did it. But that's not it, because many times when you manifest something, your own nature is going to slap you to see if you really trust in yourself. Okay? And when you really trust in yourself, then things happen. So what's the story? I ran a charity for 4 years or 5 years where we would collect clothing for the poor people, the poor kids in Peru in the mountains that live like 5,000 meters above sea level or 16,000 feet above sea level. And I would collect money in the States to GoFundMe. And I had to raise like $4,000 to $5,000 to cover all the expenses. So one day, like 2 weeks before the trip, I was short $800. And I was, and I didn't want to use the money that I was collecting to pay for my own expenses. You know? But that would be kind of like cheating on the kids, you know, trying, oh, I'll pay for my stuff, and then, you know. So I said, you know what? Let's practice what you preach. At this moment, I changed my pants, so I don't have it in my pocket. I always carry a little notebook, okay? And whenever I want something, not a Ferrari, you know? I don't want a Ferrari. I don't want a Ferrari. But whenever I really need something, then I write it down. But in my vocabulary, I learned to say that, for me it's a bad word to say that I want something. And it's for a bad word that I desire something. Because I say if I want it or desire it, I'm coming from lack. I'm saying that I don't have it. So then my rule number one is I'm going to write it down as it already happened. And I write it down as what I did with it and how I enjoyed it. So I wrote down with the $800 that I received that completed my $4,000, I was able to do this, and that, and pay for the transportation, and do this and that, and it was like so fun, and you know, we enjoyed the trip. And then with the 2 photography jobs that I got, I was able to pay for my expenses and do this and do that. So now it's not enough just to write it down and store it. I said, you know what? For 2 days, I just grabbed a book, my little notebook, and I would read it out loud, and I would like feel it out loud. So, oh my gosh, I would say, oh, I did this and that, and it was so joyful, and I did this and that, and meanwhile, I still had to go to work and all that kind of stuff. So when I wanted to do it, sometimes I went to the bathroom in the office, and I would like be talking to myself, you know, like really joyful, you know. And at the same time, I would also go at least, remember, it's only 2 days. I would go to the mirror in the bathroom, even in the office, and look at myself and convince myself that I did it. And I remember doing it. So I was like really talking to myself and like joyful, like wow, you know. So 2 days passed, and in the afternoon, my phone rings, and I'm like, who's calling? So I answer the phone, and it's like, hi, how are you? Could you take a photo of my daughter in a couple of weeks in November? And I'm like, yeah, but look, if you pay me tomorrow, I'll give you a discount. And they, oh, no problem, I'll pay you. So the check arrived the next day. And the next afternoon, I'm like, I walk out of my office, and this is very important because like, when you have the intention and the focus that you want something, you also have to be aware of things that show up that are not in place, that are, be aware. Your awareness has to be at 120%. So I walked outside that day, and I'm looking around, you know, like everybody's there, you know, the normal parents and stuff like that. And I see this guy that I haven't seen him pick up his kid like in 4 years. So I was like, what is he doing here? So I said, I'm gonna ask him. So I went there and I said, hey, I haven't seen you here. What are you doing here? And he said, oh, well, I don't know. I just thought that I would just come pick up my son today. Ah, okay, perfect. The next day, his wife calls me and says, oh, George said that he saw you yesterday. And I think it would be a great idea if you can take a photo of my son next Friday. Okay, you know, pay me next Friday and we're good. Perfect. So that's like 2 out of 4 things that I wanted, you know. That completed my shoot. Now I needed $800. So that day somebody emails me and says, oh, I forgot about your charity. Where can I send $500? And like, PayPal. And that afternoon, I see this guy that says, oh, your charity, $350. So I got $850 plus my expenses paid for the trip. So I'm like, okay, we did it. We're good. But this is when the trust in yourself has to be greater than any doubt that you can have. Why? Because that was like a Tuesday or Wednesday. Then Thursday went by, Friday went by, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and the governor of Florida comes out and like, oh my God, we're gonna die. Hurricane Matthew's coming. He's gonna go right through the state. Take cover. Get out of the state. And all this like panic attack, you know. And I'm thinking, okay, I have the money. I'm just missing the second payment for the job I'm going to do this Friday. How is it possible that now a hurricane is coming? That can't be right because I already got what I wanted. You know what I mean? I did what I wanted. I got what I wanted. How is it possible that there's a hurricane coming? So I said, okay, I'm going to step back and look at it all. And I said, who do I go to really check on that? And I said, quantum physics. In quantum physics, there's like several mysteries. No, the most famous one is called the double slit mystery. No, but that one didn't help me that much. So there's another one that's called the measurement of the atom. And in the measurement of the atom, and you look it up, and it's very interesting. They wanted to know if a particle or matter behave only as a particle or as a wave. But in this case, because they only had a particle, they also wanted to know where was the marble, you know, say, in a box at a given millisecond. You know, it can only be like XYZ, 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 you know. So they run the experiment, and when they come back, they see that the results say that the marble was everywhere at every given time. How could it be? You can't have a marble fill up the whole can. Impossible. So they ran it, and it was always say that. So you know what? We're going to put a different measuring device. It's going to follow the marble, or even like a camera. Now they do with a camera to follow the atom or the photon. You know, and only when they did that, the marble would show up in one spot. With no camera, it was everywhere. With the camera on, was one spot. Why? Because a conscious mind, an observer, expected it to be in one spot. You know? So what does this mean? When nobody's watching, there are infinite possibilities of everything. Anything that you want, anything that you wish can be manifested, like the check. That's out of all the possibilities that could have happened, that I could get a job for it, I could get a tutoring thing or whatever, I manifested a check because that was something that I truly believed in, and it happened. You know? In this case, I said, good, because at the same time it means that there are parallel worlds. And in one of them, there is no hurricane. Well, the hurricane is not going to go through Florida. It's going to go like maybe through the ocean. It's going to stop there and dissolve. So then I said, okay, in my world, there is no hurricane coming to Florida. So then I pick up the phone and I call the lady and say, hey, on Friday, if the sun is out, I'll take a photo of the park. Oh my God, the hurricane. The only thing I'm saying is that if Friday is sunny, I'll be at the park. Okay. So I left it there, and everybody's, oh, so where are you gonna go? Are you hiding this way? Are you in Georgia? Like, no, I'm just staying here. No, oh, but the hurricane, it's gonna come like right here, category 5, everybody's gonna die. Like, no, I'm just gonna stay here. Nothing's gonna happen because in my world, the old world. So I literally stayed in Florida and took cover. The day of the hurricane came and nothing happened. It didn't even rain, you know. It's a little breezy, like mist. Nothing happened. Just went, it blew away to the ocean. And the next day I get a call and says like, hey, are you gonna be at the park? Yeah, I'll be at the park. Took the photos. You know? But the thing is that you have to stand your ground and truly believe. Because if I would say like 1 million, okay? I'm just giving you a number. 1 million is 100%, okay? If I have 0.5 or 0.5% doubt, that is 5,000 possibilities of things that can go wrong. And you have to have 0, because if not, only like 0.5% of 0.5% is already, you know, like maybe 5 things that can go wrong. So is stand the ground. But you would imagine that when I said that I manifested it, that was the end of the story, you thought it wasn't. And then you would imagine that because I told you the story that anything happened, that was the end of the story. But it's not. Because the next year, almost like in rainy season, in May, a friend came to me and said, hey, can you take photos of me on the beach because I do this like full moon yoga? And I said, yeah, no problem. I'll meet you at the beach at 7 o'clock. But 2 days before, somebody says, hey, I have this like 1 hour job doing photos. I'll pay you $600. And I, free, 600. I call my friend, hey, you know what? I have a job. So let's do it next month. So the next month came. I said, okay, we're ready for Thursday. Yeah, let's do it on Thursday. Same thing happens. Somebody calls me and says, hey, you know, the job. They say, look, I have a job again. Let's do it next month. Oh, no problem, Bob. And she puts like this puppy face and says like, yeah, but they said it's gonna rain all week and it's gonna rain till next Tuesday. So who's gonna show up? And I said, look, I have a story for you. And I told her the story of the hurricane. And when I was talking to her, I could see how her spirits were like lifting up, you know, she was believing, you know. And at the end, she was like, yes, tomorrow I'll have my workshop, and I'm gonna, and I said, but post on Facebook that you're gonna have it, and it's gonna be sunny, and we'll see. And they said, yeah. And I said, and even that, I'm gonna think that also is gonna be sunny. So I'm gonna give you a little kick in, you know. So the next day, you wake up with a little bit of rain, you know. By 9 o'clock, it clears out. It was sunny the whole day. And she did her workshop. She was like happy. She made like $2,000 that day, which I didn't get anything. You know? But she was happy. And the next day, I pick up my son because he was gonna help me do like some videos on Saturday. And I tell him the story. Remember the hurricane story? Yeah. You know, like I told this girl this, and then this happened. The sun came out. My son is like, oh, so now you're like the weatherman. And like, not the weatherman, just telling you. So it gets to Friday, and he comes with me to the shoot because he was going to do some video, and it's raining, you know? And he's like, he taps me on the shoulder, like, It's raining, Dad. I said, like, I don't know, but let's get to the place. I don't know what they want. Maybe it's all indoors and we're okay. So we get there and the planner comes and we're talking and say, oh yeah, the mom wants some photos by the fountain, that moon, but, and again I get like, my son, like Dad, you see? And I said, well, wait, I mean, it's not noon, it's like 9:30. So, and at 12 o'clock, the sun comes out, and we take photos and I go, okay, son, So, basically, what I have experienced is that when you're certain and that when you want something really, really, and you're able to see it, that it already happened, and in my vision, I don't see myself doing it. Like if I would say, I see myself in a theater, a podium talking, I see it through my eyes. I would have to be visualizing myself looking at the crowd and not seeing myself on the crowd, on the stage, So anything that I did, like say like, yesterday I went to Idra, Idra? And I did this and that, I can see that, I can feel it through my eyes. I didn't see me walking in Idra, I can see it, and nobody is going to tell me that I wasn't there. So the same thing, you have to see yourself in a spot doing something as it already happened. Why? And why do I say that? Because if you go to quantum physics and physics, and I'm going to take you from a dot all the way up and down and tell you why. Okay? So if I get a dot has no dimension. Okay? But if I get a dot and I put two dots, I get a line. That's one dimension. If I get 4 lines, I get a surface. That's 2 dimensions. If I get 6 surfaces, I get a cube. That's 3 dimensions. Okay? So now if I imagine these are cubes, and I intersect them, the intersection of 2 cubes is going to be a surface. So that's the intersection of 3-dimensional beings is a 2-dimensional being, surface. If I intersect 2 surfaces, it's going to be a line. So if we intersect 2 dimensions, it's going to be a line, 1 dimension. And if I get a line and intersect the line, it's going to be a dot. The dot is 0 dimensions. So why do I waste my time telling you that? Because you are a 3-dimensional being. So that means that you are the intersection for 4th dimension, in which if you were able to see yourself in a 4th dimension, everything already happened. You will be able to see your life in an instant. And that life in an instant would have all the possibilities of you doing something. So anything that you want and anything that you could have happened. And you just have to believe that that's possible. And when you do that, then things manifest. But you have to have like 0% doubt. And also you have to work out your coherence between your mind and your heart. Meaning that you have to feel it. But you think you have to feel. There's a clear example of Greg Braden. Once he studied a lot of like religions, and prayers and stuff like that. And one day they told him there's this guy that says that he can make rain. And there was a huge drought in Arizona. And so Greg Braden said like, oh well, I'll go ask him if he can make rain. So he goes to pick up the guy and they go out to the desert and they drive like 2 hours, they get to the spot and the guy said, okay, sit down. So he sits down just waiting to see the whole show. The guy stands up, goes to a little circle of rocks, takes off his shoes, gets inside, lifts up his hands, do 2 twirls, and then closes his eyes, comes out and says, okay, I'm hungry. And like, Greg said, what? What do you mean you're hungry? I thought you were going to make rain. And the guy said like, look, if I say that I'm going to make rain, I'm saying that there's no rain. So you come from scarcity. So what did you do? Well, I took off my shoes, I stepped into the mud and felt the mud going through my feet, and I raised my hands and I twirled around so I could feel the water just wetting myself, and getting more humid. And I closed my eyes and I smelled the mud, that moist dirt. And I thank all my ancestors for the rain that I was receiving. That's it. And that night, because the faith or the focus was there. And that question that I get a lot is like, oh, okay, so you said that in your world there wasn't going to be a hurricane, but in Florida there's 100,000 people or more, 200,000 people, and everybody expected that it was a hurricane. So how come there wasn't? So anybody has the answer? In my vision, I'm not in your head. I'm not in your head. I'm not in your head. So I don't know if you had a hurricane in your experience, because you are just a character in my vision. In my reality, you're a secondary character. I don't care what you think, because this is my manifestation. And you're just shown as a character in my manifestation. So that's when even like people say like, oh, you know what, I want to do this and that, but my husband is like this, and I have no control over it. You do have control over it. It's because you are already thinking about how your husband is. So you're prejudging him, and you're saying how he is in your life. So he's showing up in your life. And I've seen, like, in many cases when I had to talk to my boss about something, and when I was in a place of work, when I thought about what's going to happen the next day, but I think how I want it to happen the next day, then it happens that way. Instead of saying, oh my gosh, he's gonna be all grumpy, or he's gonna do this and that, and then he's gonna be all grumpy and that, because you're putting that way. You're saying that about your kids, you're saying that about your boss, you're saying about your boyfriend, you're saying about, so you are literally manifesting that in your life, and in a way, a really good example, did you guys see Jumanji?
Yeah.
So in Jumanji, you have, like this little skinny kid that's very afraid of everything, and then all of a sudden, he's the rock, But still, even though he's the rock, he's afraid, because he hasn't assumed that character. And it's only when he assumes that character that he becomes brave. Because if I told anybody, you guys, like, you know what, tomorrow, you're the bravest person in the world, and you have the power of ask. You can ask anything. You will wake up and you will do whatever you want. But it's when you get into that doubt that you wake up and say, you know what? Dude, I'm not going to ask this today because I'm pretty shy, But it's when you have the power of bravery and assume that role. It's like, or maybe many of you guys say like, you know what? I want to be a powerful speaker. Or I want to be like this person. Yes, you know what? In 3 years, I'll be like that. Like, no. You're pushing it back. You have to assume the role right now. And even like, just imagine like different people, like singers that you have seen in a career for like 10 years. Do you think they were thinking, oh, in 10 years I'm going to be famous? No. They jumped into their shoes. They were famous right there. And they assumed that role. They played that role. Shakespeare, I don't know the exact quote, but Shakespeare says something like, in life, we only play roles. And we change those roles, and we assume these roles in the theater of life. So that's what you have to do. And I know it's difficult because we start getting all these fears, and we borrow these fears, and we borrow these thoughts, and we borrow these feelings, very clear example is like a baby. When a baby is born, the only real fear that he has is the fear of falling down and the fear of a sudden noise. He he doesn't have any other fear. And maybe one day this little kid or little girl comes and says, Daddy, 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 I'm afraid of ghosts. And you're like, afraid of ghosts? Where do you get ghosts from, you know? And you come. And he brings you the TV and shows you this cartoon little doggy and little cute ghost. So he borrowed that fear. The same thing, because we watched movies since we were little kids, and we watch all these TV and people acting out, and you say like, oh, so when I'm sad I have to cry, and then when I do this I have to do this, and then when this happens I have to be fearful of this. And you keep grabbing these fears. But if you're aware, you know, say that you're in a moment you are depressed or you're sad, but if you have the power to be aware at that moment, you're also aware that your basic eye doesn't have anything, and everything else is just borrowed. So if you can imagine yourself in this big hallway, a white hallway, like 4 meters by 4 meters or 10 feet by 10 feet, infinite hallway, and you as a basic eye are standing right there, looking at life pass by. And then in this hallway, you see these balloons come by, and these like thoughts and emotions and feelings. Maybe something that you experience sadness and you grab this balloon, and then something that made you mad and you grab this balloon. And instead of just experiencing it for a moment and say, oh, okay, let go because it's not mine, it's not yours, you hold on to it. You know? Like for example, I have this really good joke, and I tell you this joke about this little dog and little monkey and little ducky that said funny, and you guys laugh. And you laugh and laugh and laugh about this joke. And then you know what? We go up for a second and say, hey guys, I have this really good joke. There's this doggy and this duck and this, and they say quack, quack, quack. And you guys, you know, like, kind of like, okay, like 50% you laugh. And then 30 minutes after, I have this really good joke about this dog. And he's like, come on, man. Like, and you don't laugh. Because like, but how come you don't hold on to laughter, but you hold on to pain so long? And you carry it for years. But when something's happy for you, you let it go really fast. When something's really sad or hurt you, you grab it with all your might because you really want to suffer. You know? Realize that it's not you. Realize that you're living in this moment, this present moment. And if you're happy now, you'll be happy tomorrow. You say, tomorrow's going to come, but tomorrow comes as you right now. The present moment, just right now. And anything in the past is like when you look behind the boat, the waves will dissolve in it. That's the past, you know? And like the Vedantas, the Hindus said that time is just one, you know? And that if I was going to explain to a little kid about, as you as a little kid about time, and I say, you know what, look here, I have a bowl of fruit. And I tell you, look, I have an apple, an orange, and a banana. Yeah? But this is a bowl of fruit, okay? But if I tell that to a little kid, I say, hey, Tommy, I have a banana, an apple, and an orange. This is a bowl of fruit. Tommy's gonna look at me and say, you're crazy. The banana, orange, and it's a banana, an orange, and an apple. That's not a bowl of fruit. Because he does not understand the concept of a bowl of fruit. As you don't understand the concept of time. Because you think that time is a linear thing. As I told you, it already happened. And now, I think that I do, secret pocket, is that I have this thing, which you plug into your iPhone. Okay. You plug it here to your iPhone. It's gonna pop up. It's an inner balance. Okay? And I say allow. So what's gonna happen is it comes out something like this. You know? And what this does is that when you run it, and you can use it for when you meditate, or even just like to keep this, like the thought process. What it does is kind of like, it elevates your coherence level. meaning that the connection between your thoughts and your heart. So you see how it's like running and it's taking my pulse from my ear? No? So in a while it's going to start, and depending on how I feel, it's going to start graphing. You see, it's blue. Right now it's blue, meaning that I'm at an intermediate level. So I want to like
manifestation.
Yeah. So I have to like try to keep it green with no distraction. And many times you're like trying to do that, and all of a sudden you get a stop to distract you, and poof, it goes blue or it goes red. No? So you have to kind of like, it makes you practice that state of coherence and state of, and trying to keep it there, You said if I go bizarre or whatever, then it go red, and the thing is keep it, I've done it like 30 minutes, and it's like really hard because like, trying to, dirty thought, no, or whatever, anything, but it helps you to reach that state, It's interesting, one more little gadget, but it's that, But at the end of the day, it's kind of like what Plato said in the book 7 of the Republic about Plato's cave. And Plato's cave, the allegory is that they had these slaves that were born tied, and they only could see a wall, and behind them there was a fire. And so their only reality was to be seeing the shadows of a horse, maybe of people passing by, and they would hear the sounds of the shadows. So their world, those were the creatures. They were like 2D creatures that walked by. And then one day, one of the slaves frees himself. He gets out of the cave and he gets like the light, gets out, and he realizes that the shadows are just a projection of a 3D object on the ground. And then when he realizes, he knows that now his reality changed. Because like in this case, you're watching everything in 3D. But it could be that you're not seeing stuff in 4D. And you're limited by your senses. Because you can only see a range of colors. You can only hear a range of sounds. Right now we can have a big party right here, we don't know. Because we can't see it, we can't hear it. So in this case, in Plato's cave allegory, when the guy comes back and he tells everybody, no, this is not real. There's something more. He started to free everybody. And they got him and they killed him because they didn't believe him. And they chained themselves back up because of the craze, That's what happens with everybody that's trying to awake. We're trying to realize that this is not real. So what I can say is stay connected to your core. This is your world. Whatever you see, we're only secondary characters. They're here to play a role in your life, or maybe exchange lessons. We're only one. We're this big consciousness. You can imagine like this, like light bulb that's shining. And if you cover it with a black cloth or a black thing, and you start poking holes in it, this light that comes out are your eyes. They're opening up, and you're watching it from your experience. So go out and conquer.